Good morning, everybody. Hope everyone is having a great week in the markets and keeping an eye out on what's going on. So, today, what are we going to talk about? Firstly, I'm going to talk about Bitcoin, what we're doing, what's currently happening, what's going on, and how it's performing. I'm then going to get into this continual discussion that's going on about cashless societies and how um, this could impact some of the major players in the world. I'm going to talk about how currencies are failing globally at the moment and letting savers down and causing problems for the populace of that particular country. And then I'm going to get into some exciting news about new products entering the space and how there's been a real shift and momentum building into the markets. And although today, sadly, it looks like it's a bit of a down day today, we're seeing quite a lot of movement in the markets recently in the downward direction. So let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to speak about is how's Bitcoin doing? So look, at the moment, Bitcoin has dropped by more than 20% since topping out over 10 or just under $10,500 in late October. We're currently sitting at $7,880. And this is basically erased almost nearly 75% of the price rise from 7,293 to 10,350 seen in the 2 days in October 26th. However, a report from IntoTheBlock basically has been giving us some positive sentiment, saying that 61% of its addresses are still in the money. They're obviously tracking when people are buying, when people are selling, etc. So that's obviously, that's showing quite a lot of people's portfolios must be looking quite nice. Put simply, 61% of the addresses can sell their Bitcoin at the given price right now and still be a gain. So that's really good news. Meanwhile, 29% of all addresses out there are out of the money. That is making a loss, and 9.43% are at a break-even point. So you've got to remember that there's always going to be a buyer, there's always going to be a seller, and a lot of the market currently is in a positive. So what does this mean for Bitcoin? Well, having a lot of people in profits could mean there could be some sells coming up while the market's dipping, or it could essentially mean these are long-term holders. So there's always going to be a price barrier on the downside to break through if that is the case. So look, guys, we've seen the market swing up and down as we always do. But those of you who've been in cryptos for longer periods, accumulation is key. Accumulation is key. Buying these dips, buying and having opportunities to build out your holdings in Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc., at lower prices, and holding and holding and holding. Selling when obviously is a really good opportunity and you see that you've made some good profits. And I'm always a firm advocate of selling, but accumulation in these days that are upon us right now is definitely the sentiment. So coming on to the main topic of discussion today, what is going on with the world in terms of digital currency, and what is going on with this cashless society rhetoric that's been going on around in the news outlets at the moment. Now, we all know the world is becoming increasingly digitally focused, from iPads to iPhones to smartphones across the world. Everything's going digital. Even my 16-month-year-old son, he's playing on the iPad. Those didn't exist when I was a kid, or many of you, I'm sure, were kids. So everybody is, from a very young age, getting accustomed to digital means of communication, digital means of information, and everything. So choosing between making a payment via a scan of a phone or credit card versus the need to carry a wallet around full of cash, it's obvious it's not as convenient. So millennials and onwards, they've grown up in this world where you can pay with your debit card. There's nobody's carrying around a checkbook anymore. Nobody's doing things like that anymore. Yes, my dad is carrying around, cash as always, but I rarely carry cash nowadays, and I think that's most of society nowadays. So we're already going increasingly digital. But cash is more than a method of payment. It's a fundamental tool for individual privacy and autonomy, and is necessary for an open society to have this as an option. This paper money shows that cashless economy is a surveillance economy. And what do I mean by that? Well, put it this way, that if we get into this particular story, I know it was released a little while ago, 8 months old, but I think this gives a clear indication of the way China, who are leading the world at the moment in becoming, releasing their digital currency, and reading between the lines of their of state and the plans, what they potentially could be doing with their digital currency, and given their surveillance state attitude, if a third party financial institution must be part of all transactions, which what it will be if they have a digital currency and they ban cash, for example, then there will be privacy to the intimate details of everyone's financial life. They can only choose to disallow. And before I get into this next point, which is hugely starking, it is absolutely crazy to think this happens, but it does. This article here basically suggests that earlier this year, 23 million citizens of China were banned from buying travel tickets as part of a social credit system. Now, how are they profiling these individuals? Well, taking digital currency to the next level, they're able to, on a spreadsheet potentially, get, highlight who is allowed to do what and who is allowed to do, buy a travel ticket and who isn't. That in itself is far beyond the reaches of what I think could happen in the UK, because it's not communism and things like that. But this just shows the power of being able to see exactly what your populace is doing, what they're spending their money on, where they're going, how they're acting, and everything like that. So just to reiterate this point, we've seen already how financial data is used by governments here, as you can see. It may be seemingly inconsequential as deplatforming an individual from the ability to buy and sell and use services. But they could take this one step further, couldn't they? They could essentially lock out people from many services in their country, both having reaching effects beyond anything that's, I suppose, cultivating a society of um, trust. It's simply just imparting dictatorship and overreaching authority to a populace. So check out this article. I'll put it in the description of the video, and you'll see how stark and how brazen authorities have been, basically um, profiling their populace into not being allowed to do something. I'm not saying this will be the case everywhere, but given China are leading the way, it just shows how much further they could go. Um, it's just crazy, to be honest, in my mind. But it's very sad times to think that blockchain and cryptos could allow this level of overreach. This particular article from Coin Center I found very interesting, and I think you should all take a moment to, if you are interested in this sort of thing, take a read of this paper. It's quite lengthy, but it does give you a overview of the information which I've just mentioned and how it can be applied. Now, I did mention this. Why am I talking about all these points? Well, it all relates to blockchain. And these next few points, which I'm going to get into about central banks and countries financial situation, I think is key here. So India, we all know in 2016, they took steps to going cashless. They got rid of some of the larger denominations in notes, and that basically comprised 86% of the Indian currency at the time. 3 years later, this year, the former finance minister called for further reduction of banknotes by demonetizing the 2000 rupee note. These notes account for about one third of the currency notes in circulation in terms of the value. The finance minister has also suggested recently that he wants to get more stringent controls on the amount of cash citizens are allowed to hold in their home or in lockers. Now, this was released in 2016 when it first started, but you can see how these things are increasing in frequency and severity. India have said they're going to go for the digital rupee. I hope it's not in the same vein as what potentially China could do, but it looks like they are going in the same direction. Another country, and just to be very clear, I'm going to go through several examples of this. Argentina has been plagued recently, as everybody knows, with high inflation. Governments, elections have shocked the economy. In September of this year, Argentina's central bank I can't even say my words, initiated capital controls to say that their citizens could maximum buy up to $10,000 US dollars, that is. Even companies apparently need to get permission to buy foreign currency. A month after releasing that original statement, just a month after, they swapped the limit from 10,000 to $200 US for citizens, and a complete restriction on purchasing of digital cash in the form of Bitcoin. While this move has been criticised as solely keeping the value within the country and the local economy, once citizens are forced to maintain accounts in a digital form and the control of the government will be overreaching, I think there'll be much more detailed consequences, outlawed cash, etc., looking for alternatives. And even though they banned Bitcoin, there's many other currencies they could use out there in the digital space. I don't know if they've banned all of them. It doesn't really go into say that, but I think it's a stark indication. The next country, Lebanon. We all know about their riots that have been going on. We all know that their banks have been shut down. We all know that their country has had a stark, how can I put it, a very negative control of their public debt. They haven't been very, hasn't been very well managed. Citizens have had to revert to digital forms of payment and the limited cash from ATMs. Lebanon state prosecutor banned traders and money exchangers from taking significant amounts of physical cash out of the country. And as you can see, look how many countries there's, and I'm still going on. Malaysia, and you may think that these are only small countries that I'm talking about here. India, China are massive. These last, Argentina, still a big country. Lebanon, yeah, fair enough. Malaysia imposing a cash transaction limit as well. Going into detail on Malaysia, 6,000 limit by 2020. It is crazy. And then we go into another one, Malta. Malta have been a hub for cryptocurrency in this area of the world, and as you'll see in this article again, and other articles, Malta has had an issue. One of the major ones, which this article goes into suggesting, is Australia are looking to impose a 2-year jail sentence for people using cash for purchases above the $10,000 limit. Now, that isn't law yet in that country, but they're thinking of doing it, and it's gone through, I believe, the first round of lawmaking in that country. Negative interest rates have now hit one of the powerhouses in Europe, Germany. Um, the first for low savers, basically the first of its kind, a 0.5% on saving accounts with deposits of €1 and above. Jesus Christ, guys, they're going to be a deposit charge of 0.5%. Crazy. The world is going mad. Banks are failing. We can see this. Economies are failing throughout the world. Cryptocurrencies are an alternative to this. So if anybody in these countries is listening to this video, check out the options that you have out there. There's no need to be storing your money in banks anymore, I don't think. Another really, really, I thought is crazy. You know how I mentioned earlier, India are going cashless because one of their major reasons for this was for they want to scrap because they're worried about tackling fake notes and fraud and all of this. Well, state-run banks just reported over $14 billion in fraud from the last 6 months alone. Meanwhile, as we can see, they're not allowed to deal with any cryptocurrency businesses due to the possibility of fraud. Crazy, I know, but that is the case. So, what am I trying to say by pointing out all of this information in a very long winded way? Sorry for everybody, is that banks aren't the only option around the world. There are many different options from maybe gold to cryptocurrencies, holding your money in different areas. Cash is not king at the moment, and I think alternatives have to be looked on, and sooner or later, next 5 years, I believe it'll be normality to hold a lot of holdings in alternative methods. So, new products entry space. I promised you what we were going to talk about. Now, backed, I'm a little bit disappointed with these guys. They were meant to be the pioneers in the space, offering future contracts settled in Bitcoin. What are they doing now? Exactly what CME have been doing for the last God knows how long, offering cash settled futures. Very disappointed there. Have a look, see what you think. Yes, there is going to be a link between the settled price on the Bitcoin futures to their cash settled price, but at the same time, it all sounds very incestuous now, and the hopes that I suppose everyone did have for Backed were it would bring institutional money in floods. Well, yes, we've seen an increase, but it's nowhere near what we were. I think everybody was hoping for, and I did warn everybody of this in this case. CME, what are they going to be doing? They're setting dates for their options product tied to Bitcoin futures. I can only think this is a good thing. I know, we don't we want people settling in Bitcoin all the time, but it just brings institutional exposure from more seasoned investors in the world of investing. Really, they're used to settling options, they're used to buying options, they're used to buying ETFs, they're used to buying futures contracts. These are options which are only going to build out the mature nature of the crypto space. I saw a great bit of news come from Coin Market Cap earlier this month, which I forgot to mention in some of my earlier videos. They've offered a liquidity tool. Now, there's been loads of arguments about how cryptocurrency on CoinMarketCap's reported volumes has been um, very hard to quantify and give a detailed account of. Well, in actual fact, they've now got a liquidity tool which should solve those problems. And I think I might do a video later on how it actually works. But check out this article. It'll be in the description, and we'll go from there. The next Swiss Stock Exchange 6 lists the first income generating crypto project. Excellent. I think that this again is showing how stock exchanges and the market is maturing, which is excellent. Check out the article for more details, but really it just shows, like I said, the maturing nature of the markets. Tezos blockchain has been offering some great things recently. I'd check those guys out as well. Again, another great tool that's come to the space, which I think that everybody should take note of, is Cryptos' tool. Now, I haven't used it myself and I haven't even seen the beta, but if it does what it says it does in terms of giving more transparency, it gives people an insight who are coming from outside of the space to learn about what products are the most transactions, most information on that particular blockchain. It's excellent. Binance, first client for Paxos new dollar gateway, superb option here. I think that it builds a new on ramp into the space, and it's one which I welcome because more on ramps, the better. So that's really everything apart from mentioning the fact that Fidelity um, have basically um, said they're launching their custody services, and this can only be a really positive thing. It means that people who are part of Fidelity can now have an on ramp into the crypto space in a very positive way. That Fidelity are absolutely massive, 2 point something trillion in assets under management. If 0.5% of these guys take on their services in the crypto space, that is phenomenal amount of money coming into the space as well. So sorry for the length of the video today, guys. I hope everybody's having a great week. Hope you enjoyed the content. Have a good one.